Good evening, everybody. This is Matt Kramer again, and for the special edition of Federalist Friday, I'm going to read number 49 and 50. 49 was pretty short. Number 48 was pretty short. Um, and I did number 48 a couple hours ago. So I'm going to do 49 and 50. And the book is on the Federalist Papers um, playlist, but also for number 50, which will be on the same video. So this uh, this episode will be put in the milestone playlist on YouTube video. So look for that. Uh, look for look at both of those playlists for this episode of Federalist Friday. The author of the notes on the state of Virginia, quoted in the last paper, has subjoined that valuable work, the draft of the Constitution, which had been prepared in order to be laid before a convention expected to be called in 1783 by the legislature, for the establishment of a constitution for that commonwealth. The plan, like everything from the same plan, marks a turn of thinking, original, comprehensive, and is the more worthy of attention as it equally displays a fervent attachment to Republican government and an enlightened view of the dangerous propensities against which it ought to be guarded. One of the precautions which he proposes, and on which he appears ultimately to rely, is a palladium to the future departments of power against the invasions of the stronger, is perhaps altogether forgotten. And as it immediately relates to the subject of our present inquiry, ought not to be overlooked. Mr. Jefferson's proposition is that whenever any two of the three branches of government shall confer in the Union, each by the voices of two-thirds of their whole members, that a convention is necessary for altering the Constitution or correcting breaches of it, a convention shall be called for that purpose. As the people are the only legitimate fountain of power, and it is from them that the constitutional charter, under which the several branches of government hold their power, is derived. It seems strictly consonant to the Republican theory to recur to the same original authority, not only whenever it may be necessary to enlarge, diminish, or new model or remodel powers of the government, but also whenever any one of the departments may commit encroachments on the chartered authorities of the other departments. The several departments being perfectly coordinated by the terms of their common commission, none of them, if ever, can pretend to an exclusive and superior right of settling the boundaries between their respective powers. And how are the encroachments of the stronger to be prevented, or the wrongs of the weaker to be redressed, without an appeal to the people themselves, who, as a branch of the commission, can alone declare its true meaning and enforce its observance? There is certainly great force in this reasoning, and it must be allowed to prove that a constitutional road to the decision of the people ought to be marked out and kept open for certain great and extraordinary occasions. But there appear to be inseparable objections against the proposal claims to the people. There's a provision in all cases for keeping the several departments of power within their constitutional limits. In the first place, the provision does not reach the case of a combination of two of the departments against the third. If the legislative authority, which possesses so many means of operating on the motives of the other departments, should be able to gain to its interest either of the others or even one third of it, the remaining department could derive no advantage from its provision. I do not dwell, however, on this objection because it may be thought to be rather against the modification of the rather than against the principle itself. Modification of the principle than against the principle itself. In the second place, they may be considered as an objection inherent to the principle that as every appeal to the people will carry an implication of some defect in the government, frequent appeals would, in a great measure, deprive the government of that veneration which time bestows on everything, and without which perhaps the wisest and freest governments would not possess the requisite stability. If it be true that all governments rest on opinion, it is no less true that the strength of opinion in each and its practical influence on his conduct depend much on the number which he supposes to entertain the same opinion. The reason of man, like man itself, is timid and cautious when left alone, and requires firmness and confidence in proportion in the number with which it is associated. When the examples which fortify opinion are ancient as well as numerous, they are known to have a double effect. In a nation of philosophers, this consideration ought to be disregarded. A reverence for the laws would be sufficiently inculcated by the voice of an enlightened reason. But a nation of philosophers is as little to be expected as the philosophical race of kings which have Plato. And in every other nation, the most rational government will not find a superfluous advantage to the prejudices of the community. The danger of disturbing the public tranquility by interesting too strongly the public passions is a still more serious objection against the frequent reference of constitutional questions to the decision of the whole society. Notwithstanding the success which has attended the revisions of our established forms of government, and which does so much honor to the virtue and intelligence of the people of America, it must be confessed that the experiments are too ticklish, ticklish in nature to be unnecessarily multiplied. You have to recollect that all the existing constitutions were formed in the midst of a danger which possessed the passions most unfriendly to order and comfort, of an enthusiastic confidence of the people in the great categories, which stifled the ordinary diversity of opinions on great national questions, of the universal ardor for new and opposite forms, produced by a universal resentment and indignation against the ancient government, and whilst no spirit of party connected with the changes to be made or the abuses to be performed, would mingle its levy in the operation. The future situations in which we must expect to be easily faced do not present any equivalent security against the danger which is at hand. But the greatest objection of all is that the decisions which would probably result from such appeals do not answer the purpose of maintaining the constitutional equilibrium of the government. We have seen that the tendency of Republican governments is to an aggrandizement of the legislative of the legislative branch at the expense of the other departments. The appeals to the people, therefore, would usually be made by the executive and judiciary department. But whether made by one side or the other, would each side enjoy equal advantages on the trying? Let us view their different situations. The members of the executive and judiciary departments are free and local, and can be personally known to a small part only of the people. The latter, by the mode of the appointment, as well as by the nature and permanency of it, are too far removed from the much in the prepossessions. The former are generally the objects of jealousy, and their administration is always liable to be discolored and rendered unpopular. The members of the legislative department, on the other hand, are numerous. They are distributed and dwell among the people at large. Their connections of blood and of friendship and of acquaintance embrace a great proportion of the most influential part of the society. The nature of the public trust implies a personal influence among the people, and in that they are more immediately the consequential guardians of the rights and liberties of the people. With these advantages, it can hardly be supposed that the adverse party would have an equal chance for favorable peace. For the legislative party would not only be able to plead their cause, but most successfully with the people. They would probably be constituted themselves as judges. The same influence which had gained them a direction into the legislature would gain them a seat in the convention. If this should not be the case with all, it would probably be the case with many, and pretty certainly, certainly with those leading characters on whom everything depends in such bodies. The convention, in short, would be composed chiefly of men within who actually were, or who expected to be members of the department whose conduct was arranged. They would consequently be parties to the very question which is decided by. It might, however, sometimes happen that appeals will be made under circumstances less adverse to the executive and judiciary. The usurpations of the legislature might be so flagrant and so sudden as to admit of no species color. A strong party among themselves might take sides with other branches. The executive power might be in the hands of a particularly favorable people. In such a posture of things, the public decision must be legislated of prepossessions in favor of the legislative party. But still, it could never be expected to turn on the of the question. It would inevitably be connected with the sphere of pre-existing parties, or of parties springing out of the question. It will be connected with persons of distinguished character and extensive influence with the country. It would be pronounced by the very men who have been agents in or homicide, the measures to which the decision would relate. The passions, therefore, have not been reasoned by the public with certain judgment, but it is the reason alone of the public that ought to control the public. The passions ought to be controlled and regulated by the public. We found in the last paper that mere declarations are not sufficient to explain the several departments of the government. It appears in his that occasional appeals of the people will be neither a proper nor an effectual provision for that. How far the provisions of the people contained in the plan above quoted above might be out. I do not hesitate. Some of them are unquestionably founded on sound political principles, and all of them are friendly to singular individuals. Number not 49. Number 50 now. Number 50 that might. It may be contended perhaps that instead of occasional appeals to the people, which are liable to the objections urged against them, periodical appeals are the proper and adequate means of preventing or correcting infractions of the country. There will be a tendency that in the examination we succeed, I confine myself to their aptitude for enforcing the Constitution, that even the several departments of power within the act, without particularly considering them as provisions for altering the Constitution itself. In the first view, appeals to the people at fixed periods appear to be nearly as ineligible as appeals on particular occasions as they emerge. Here the periods be separated at short intervals, measures to be reviewed and rectified of recent date, and will be connected with all the circumstances which can vitiate and pervert the result of occasional revisions. If the periods be distant from each other, the same remark to be applicable to all recent measures, and in proportion to the remoteness of the others in favor of the statute of this advantage is inseparable from inconvenience, which seem to counterbalance it. In the first place, the distant prospect of public censure would be a very feeble restraint on power from those excesses to which it might be urged by the force of present motives. Is it to be imagined that the legislative assembly, consisting of 100 or 200 members, eagerly bent on some favorite object, breaking through the restraints of the Constitution, to be arrested in the career by the consideration of and the censorial revision of the, of the conduct of the future distance of 10, 15, or 20 years. In the next place, the abuses would often have completed their mischievous effects before the remedial provision would be applied. And in the last place, where this might not be the case, it would be of long standing, would have taken deep root and would not be easily be extricated. The scheme of revising the Constitution in order to correct recent breaches of it, as well as for other purposes, has been actually tried in one of the states. One of the objects of the Council of Censors, which met in Pennsylvania in 1783 and 84, was, as we explained, to inquire whether the Constitution had been violated and whether the legislative and executive departments had been approached and betrayed. This important and novel experiment in politics merits, in several points of view, very particular attention. In some of them, it may, perhaps, as a single experiment, made, made under circumstances somewhat peculiar, be thought to be not absolutely conclusive, but as applied to the case under consideration, it involves facts, which I venture to remark as a complete and satisfactory illustration of the reasoning which I have been. Number one, it appears from the names of the gentlemen who composed the council that some, at least, of its most active and leading members have also been active in leading characters in the parties which pre-existed in the state. Number two, it appears that the same active and leading members of the council have been active and influential members of the legislative and executive branch within the period to be reviewed, and even patrons or opponents of the very measures to be thus brought to the task of the Constitution. Two of the members have been vice presidents of the state, and several others members of the executive council within the 7 preceding years. One of them has been speaker, and a number of the others distinguished members of the legislative assembly within the same. Number three, every page of the proceedings witnesses the effect of all these circumstances on the temper of the deliberations. Throughout the continuance of the council, it was split into two fixed and violent parties. The fact is acknowledged and lamented by themselves. Had this not been the case, the face of the proceedings exhibits a proof equally satisfactory. In all questions, however unimportant in themselves, or unconnected with each other, same names stand invariably contrasted on opposite columns. Every unbiased observer may infer, without danger of mistake, and at the same time without means of respect from either party or any individual of either party, that unfortunately passion, not reason, must have presided over their decisions. When men exercise their reason coolly in a variety of distinct questions, they inevitably fall into different opinions on some of them. When they are governed by common passion, their opinions, if they are so to be called, will be the same. Number four, it is at least problematical whether the decisions of his body do not, in several instances, misconstrue the limits prescribed in the legislative and executive departments, instead of reducing and limiting them within their constitutional basis. Number five, I have never understood that the decisions of the council on constitutional questions, whether rightly or erroneously formed, have had any effect in varying the practice founded on legislative instructions. It even appears, if I mistake not, that in one instance the legislature denied the constructions of the council and actually prevailed in the contest. This censorial body therefore proves at the same time by its researches the existence of the disease, and by an example the inefficacy of the remedy. This conclusion cannot be invalidated by alleging that the state in which the experiment was made was at that Texas. It happened for a long time, violently repeated and distracted by the rage of it. Is it to be presumed that, that at any future septennial epoch, the same state will be free from parties? Is it to be presumed that any other state, the same or any other given period, would be exempt? Such an event ought to be neither presumed nor desired, because an extinction of parties necessarily implies either a universal alarm for the public safety or an absolute extinction of were the precaution taken of excluding from the assemblies elected by the people who advised the proceeding of the government all persons who should have been concerned with the government within the given period, the difficulties would not have been obvious. The important task would probably devolve on men who, in inferior capacity, would in other respects be little better qualified. Although they might not have been personally concerned in the administration and therefore not immediately agents, they would probably have been involved in parties connected with these measures who have been elected in their capacity. So that's number 49 and 50.